Hey, I'm Al McGee with your entertainment ticket at www.yeticket.com. Well, the film I'm going to talk about right now is called They Shall Not Grow Old. And this is directed by the great Peter Jackson. You know, Lord of the Rings, those films and some other films too that he did. Well, let me give you a little bit of story about this, my situation with this film. When I went to the theater, they handed me some 3D glasses. I said, wait a minute, 3D glasses for a documentary? That's right, this is a documentary. I said, why do I need some 3D glasses? This is a documentary by Peter Jackson. Then when I said Peter Jackson in my mind, I said, okay, I can understand that. Well, this film is about World War I. Do you remember World War I? I don't even think about World War I, but I got to realize how important it really was at the time that it happened. It happened between 1914 and 1918. Basically, it was England against Germany fighting in France because the Germans wanted to go through France to get to the English Channel to attack England. And if you know a little bit of history of World War I, it's about, I think this Duke got killed and the English and the Germans were mad at each other for some reason. And the strange thing about that, the king and queen are relatives of German heritage. They have German relatives and things like that. But during World War II, they changed their names from the German name to the name they have today. So, there's a whole lot going on between England and Germany. But anyway, well, this story shows how devastating World War I was for the English soldiers. Again, like I said, they had problems. Then it developed into a war. Now, here you have a lot of English voices with a lot of old archives of films and pictures that he put together to really show the impact of this war. But not only that, the voices from the soldiers who were in World War I. They had these voices. They were in archives, in museums, and places like that Peter Jackson did. And he put this all together for this film. In this film, you see how these young boys, young men, they were hyped up to go to war. Because, you tell a lot of young kids, especially young boys, how heroic it is and how you can come back as a hero and live a heroic life once war is over. But they really don't tell you about the atrocities of a war. Many of these young boys lied about their ages. That, I think you had to be 18 or 19 years old to go to war there in England. But they were 16, 17 years old, haven't lived any type of life, but going to war. And you can hear their voices, how one guy, he said, my whole youth was spent in the war. Another guy said, well, when I went to war, I became a man. You have those type of stories that you hear in this documentary, They Shall Not Grow Old. And not only that, Peter Jackson shows you some of the horrible conditions of being in that war there in World War I. For example, these men live in trenches. At the time, that's how they fought. They had trenches. They also used horses for moving heavy armaments and things like that. Because, really wasn't motorized at that time. And in the trenches, it shows how there was rat infestations, how these men got trench foot from the rain and the mud, and also how the men talked about it was so muddy, it was like quicksand, how they saw some of their own partners or soldiers drown in mud. not shot by a bullet, but drowning in mud after a heavy rain. And also showed how the gases that they were using at that time in World War I, the Germans, well, I think England was probably using gases too, were using noxious gases, to kill the English soldiers. Not only just the English soldiers, their allies also. But, Peter Jackson, he had an army of forensic lip readers, to determine what the soldiers on screen were saying. And I saw some of that. I said, man, how did they do that? Also, they had some actors to reproduce some of the dialogue too, and also some of the correct original accents. And had some dubbing going on too with this film to show again how this was during World War II. And that war was over 100 years ago. But this was some very, very brilliant filmmaking that Peter Jackson did again. It also added color to these black and white photos that he had, and also to some of the small films that he had. They added color. For example, when they showed some of the death of the soldiers, it showed the blood coming out of the soldiers. Oh, man, it was really horrible to watch. It really was. War is not beautiful. It is horrible. And that's what Peter Jackson is showing in this film. It is horrible. And that's why with this film, They Shall Not Grow Old, I got to give this 3.5 palm trees out of 4 for this film. It's almost a perfect film, and I really enjoyed it, and I was devastated by what I saw. I'm a veteran myself, and I'm very fortunate I did not fight in a war, but I was trained to kill, and I had to be ready to be killed. But here, in this They Shall Not Grow Old, really show how these young men sacrificed to be killed. Hey, I'm Al McGee with your entertainment ticket at www.yeticket.com. Thank you for watching my review of They Shall Not Grow Old. You know what? I really appreciate it. And go watch this film. Very entertaining.
We are your entertainment ticket, that's right. YETicket.com. We are your entertainment ticket, that's right. YETicket.com. YETicket.com.